Before I do start this video, make sure to use my TCG player affiliate down below if you're looking for any of these singles that I talk about today. Also, this channel is sponsored by Arcane Fortress. If you're looking for the best deck boxes around, make sure to use my link down below in the description to check them out. One other way you can support the channel is by becoming a patron. There are some great benefits of being a patron to the channel, such as giveaways, deck advice, and more when you do join. Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Devin coming back at you with another video today in PubStomp MTG, and in today's video I'm going to be discussing a very fun bat commander, and that's Zoraline Cosmos Caller. So let's read what she does. So for 1 white and a black with 3/3 body, it's a black cleric with flying and vigilance. Whenever a bat you control attacks, you gain 1 life. Whenever Zoraline enters or attacks, you may pay black and a white and 2 life. When you do, return target non-land permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. So there is a lot to discuss about this commander. It's pretty powerful in the aspect if you have a lot of bats flying around in your battlefield, you could just swing in, gain a bunch of life. If you have 5 bats on the battlefield, you swing in, you gain 5 life. Also, you get that attack trigger with Zoraline. It's like a Savine's Reclamation in the command zone. Obviously, you're paying white and a black and 2 life. You return target non-land permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So whether that's just a bat in your graveyard or another powerful enchantment or artifact or really any kind of permanent in your graveyard, you could just put it onto the battlefield with a finality counter. Obviously, once they have a finality counter on it and they get removed, they will get exiled, so there is that downside, but there's ways that we could remove that finality counter that I will discuss later. So let's waste no more time. Let's talk about Zoraline Cosmos Caller and how to build around her. So let's first discuss the game plan of the deck. What are we trying to achieve? We want to put cards into our graveyard so that we can reanimate them with our commander's abilities. So cards like Entomb, Unmarked Grave, and Buried Alive are all going to get that job done. We can search for a specific card, or in that case of Buried Alive, we could search for up to 3 cards and put them into our graveyard. I usually like to point out these type of tutors because they are in your arsenal that you could take advantage of. If you need a specific kind of card you could reanimate with your commander into your graveyard, you could easily do so with these 3 options. Other cards I would like to highlight is Millikin, Perpetual Timepiece, and Pylon. Each of these act as ways to put cards into our graveyard. Millikin for 2 mana is basically just a mana rock, but you can mill a card on top of that, so that's a way we can fill up our graveyard so that we can reanimate one of our creatures. Perpetual Timepiece, the same can be said for it. You mill 2 cards. Pylon is just a great removal spell. Destroying target creature or planeswalker is very versatile. Also, you can surveil 2, and most likely you're going to be casting this for free with that convoke cost. So all around, this is just a great card to add to the list. A newer card from Modern Horizons 3 I'd like to talk about is Ripples of Undeath. This is just a great enchantment that we could constantly put cards into our graveyard with. For 1 and a black, at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, mill 3 cards. Then you may pay 1 and 3 life if you do put a card among those cards into your hand. So most likely life is just going to be a resource in this game. We have a lot of options to get life gains, so paying that 3 life to put a card into your hand is not a big deal, especially if it's a card you want in your hand specifically. Or honestly, if the 3 cards that were milled were just cards that you could reanimate with your commander, you could easily just leave them in the graveyard. You don't have to pay anything if you don't want to. So to me, this is just one of those engines that are always just constantly going to give you value. You can either put cards into your hand or put cards into the graveyard. The options are limitless with this one. However, a card I absolutely love playing in a lot of graveyard strategies is Palantir of Orthanc. At the beginning of your end step, put an influence counter on Palantir of Orthanc and scry 2, then target opponent may have you draw a card. If that player doesn't, you mill X cards, where X is the number of influence counters on Palantir of Orthanc, and that player loses life equal to the total mana value of those cards. So there are a lot of reasons why I do love this card. The fact that it does give you value whether you're milling cards into your graveyard, you're going to deal damage to that opponent that made you mill. Otherwise, you get to draw a card, so either way it's going to be a win-win for you. Plus, the longer the game does go on, a lot of people are going to make the tough choice of either giving you a card draw or dealing a bunch of damage to themselves. Obviously, that is based off of what cards you do mill, but most likely if people are at low life totals, they're just going to give you a card draw. This happens every single time I play this. Because we are returning cards from our graveyard to the battlefield with finality counters, I thought Navigation Orb and Wayfarer's Bauble and any card like this is going to be great tools in our deck. Both of these options are fantastic in the deck. We can sacrifice them by paying 2 and tapping them. Either you get 2 lands with Navigation Orb or 1 unland with Wayfarer's Bauble, and then later on when you do attack with your commander, you could reanimate them from the graveyard to the battlefield because remember, it's non-land permanent. Then you could go ahead and ramp a little bit further. Obviously, there are some other options that you can take advantage of that sacrifice themselves. I'll discuss them later on. However, cards that are entering from the graveyard to the battlefield will enter with finality counters, so cards like Power Conduit are going to be excellent because you can remove a counter from a permanent you control and choose one. Put a charge counter on target artifact. We're not necessarily going to use that, but we could put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So in a normal situation, finality counters can be negative because they could exile our permanents, but with cards like Power Conduit, we could turn that negative into a positive and put a +1/+1 counter on a target creature we control. But an even better option that's a land is Nestling Ground. This is perfect because you could add for a colorless mana, or you could pay 1 and tap and move a counter from target permanent you control to another target permanent, activate only as a sorcery. In a similar fashion, we're trying to turn a negative into a positive. This is an absolute way to do so. We could remove a finality counter from a permanent we control and put it on an opponent's creature. So if you want to make sure something stays exiled, you could just remove a finality counter from creature you control to another creature on somebody's battlefield. If it's like a Blood Artist and you want to make sure it doesn't go from the graveyard to the battlefield again, you could put a finality counter on it so it gets exiled. And the last card that does remove finality counters that I did want to highlight is Feign the Broker. This is excellent because you could sacrifice a creature. That's a great option just in case if somebody tries to remove a creature, you can just sacrifice it and then we could just reanimate it later with our commander. We can put 2 1/1 counters on target creature we control. It also does have another tap ability, remove a counter from a creature you control, create a treasure token. That's the most important part about this one. We could remove a finality counter from a creature we control. Plus on top of that, we'll get the benefit of getting a treasure token on top of that. We could also sacrifice an artifact token to make a 2/1 white and black Inkling creature token with flying, so that could be useful, but most likely we're going to be using that middle ability the most. Also, we could pay 3 in black and untap Feign the Broker so that we could repeat the process of some of those options too. But now let's take a focus on bats because our commander does focus on a lot of bat synergy so that we could gain life. The first one I did want to mention is Black Market Connections. There's not a whole lot of bats in commander. Obviously, we did get some more support with this set specifically, so that's why I did want to mention Black Market Connections, mainly for that third ability, create a 3/2 colorless shapeshifter creature token with Changeling. You lose 3 life, so we will make a bat off of that, a 3/2 bat essentially. It does have the other options of making a treasure token losing 1 life and drawing a card you lose 2 life, so this is just generating a lot of value for us over time, all at the cost of life. So now let's seriously get into some bats. Let's talk about Ruin Lurker Bat, Gurmag Swiftwing, and Malakir Familiar. Each of these bats are very low to the ground and pretty vanilla in some aspects, not so much, but they are pretty low to the ground and not really crazy. Ruin Lurker Bat does read for 1 mana. It's a 1/1 with flying and lifelink at the beginning of your end step. If you descended this turn, you scry 1, so we're going to be doing that a lot. Gurmag Swiftwing does have flying, first strike, and haste, so that's an option for us to swing away. And Malakir Familiar, whenever we gain life, it does get +1/+1 until end of turn, so when we're swinging with all our bats, we could gain a lot of life and get it extra huge. Some other bat options I did want to highlight are pretty good with Scourge, Blightkeeper, and Dementia Bat. The main reason why I do like these is the fact that you could sacrifice each of them and then return them later with your commander. Scourge gets us a card draw, Blightkeeper will make our opponent lose 4 life and we gain 4 life, and Dementia Bat will make a player discard 2 cards. So each of these are pretty good. We could reanimate them later on with our commander with a finality counter and then reuse that ability again if we need to, but if anything else, we could just swing away and gain some life with them because they're low to the ground besides Dementia Bat. But I seriously think one of the best bats you could include is Screeching Scorchbeast. I love this card so much. I've played so much with this already, even though it just came out in Fallout. This is a great card in a mill strategy. So for 4 and 2 black, it's a 5/5 body with flying and menace. Whenever it does attack, each player gets 2 rad counters. Whenever 1 or more non-land cards are milled, you may create that many 2/2 black zombie mutant creature tokens. You only do this once each turn. So again, this is absolutely perfect in this deck. I run this in a budget Crocs and Kuneros deck. Speaking of that deck, I am going to have some gameplay with Deck Tech for Decks on his channel, so make sure to go check that out when it does release. I'm going to be playing Crocs and Kuneros for that budget deck. Besides that point, again, Screeching Scorchbeast, if you haven't played it, it is incredible. It's a game warper in my opinion. I did want to highlight a Bloomburrow bat. This one is excellent in the deck. It's like a Dark Confidant in a way, Dark Star Augur. For 2 and a black, it does have Offspring Black. You can make an extra token copy of it as a 1/1. It does have flying, and at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. You lose life equal to its mana value. So this could give us card advantage advantage at the loss of life, even though we might lose a lot of life depending on the type of card we do draw into. I think it's a good option because we're going to gain a lot of life to offset that life loss. But why stop at a bat when we could talk about a bat god with Aclazot's Steepest Betrayal? This is incredible for a commander itself, but in the 99 it could actually work pretty well. It does have flying and lifelink, and when it does attack, each opponent discards a card. For each opponent who can't, you draw a card, and whenever opponent discards a land card, create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying, and if it does die, you return it back to the battlefield as Temple of the Dead. So this as an engine is incredible. It makes each opponent discard a card when we do attack, and for each opponent who can't, we get a draw card, so if none of them can, we get a draw 3 cards. And if they ever discard a land card, we make a bat token, which is going to really pump up our army so that when we swing in with all our bats, we're going to gain a bunch of life. So this is essentially the type of card where it just works by itself, but it works really well with our commander too, so it's going to be a win-win for us whether this is on the battlefield with our commander or not. Because we are in a life gain theme, we want to take advantage of gaining so much life. The first example I did want to point out is Heliod Suncrowned. Whenever we gain life, we put a 1/1 counter on target creature or enchantment you control. So with our bats swinging in, each of them are going to have that ability of gaining 1 life. So if we swing in with 5 bats, we'll gain 1 life for each of those. And then Heliod will trigger 5 times, putting 5 1/1 counters on any target creature or an enchantment. Plus on top of that, we could get a huge life swing depending on how big a creature is. We could just give it lifelink and then get some more life gain on top of that. Another great option in the deck I did want to point out is Valley Rockcaller. Depending on the number of bats we do have on the battlefield, this could be a huge life swing. Each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of other bats you control on the battlefield. Obviously it does include other squirrels, lizards, and rats, but we're focusing mainly on bats though. Even though this is a squirrel, this is going to be perfect for our deck depending on how much bats we do have on the battlefield. Another card I did want to showcase is Lunar Convocation. For a white and a black, at the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, each opponent loses 1 life. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain or lost life this turn, create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. Also, you can pay 1 and a black, pay 2 life, and draw cards. So there's a lot of things going for this. I think this is one of the best cards you can be playing in this deck. For one, it does act as card advantage. You pay that 2 life, and then it will activate into that second ability at the beginning of your end step if you gained or lost life this turn. So you paid 2 life, so you lost that life, and then you will make that 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. So this is just an absolute engine for the deck, and it's going to be a must to include if you're going to run this commander. And if you do want to run an infinite combo with a life gain, life loss theme, you could use Veto the Thorn Dusk Rose, Sanguine Bond, and Exquisite Blood. You could use either Veto or Sanguine Bond in this option with Exquisite Blood. This is a pretty typical combo in life gain synergies. Of course, with Veto, whenever you gain that much life, target opponent loses that much life, and with Exquisite Blood, whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life, so it kind of goes back and forth until everybody's dead essentially. So obviously these will combo together, but in each instance, these are very good outside of that combo because we're gaining life, we're also making our opponents lose life. We have that way of getting both value engines going. I mainly wanted to point out this combo because obviously you are in a life gain theme, so you might as well take advantage of that. So with that said, that's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and watching this video on Zoraline Cosmos Collar. This is one incredible bat commander, probably going to be the de facto bat commander for now on. But I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions about this commander. Do you plan on building yourself? How would you build around it specifically? Also make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. With that out of the way, thank you for stomping by.